Let me tell you something uncomfortable. If you can't control yourself, you don't have power. Not real power. You might have money. You might have status. You might have muscles. But if your emotions move you instantly, you are not powerful. You are reactive. And reactive men are controlled men. Self-control is the highest form of power because it removes external leverage. If someone can provoke you, they control you. If someone can tempt you, they control you. If someone can distract you, they control you. Most men think power is dominance. Speaking loudly. Commanding space. Winning arguments. But that's surface-level strength. Real power is internal governance. It's the ability to feel anger without becoming anger. It's the ability to feel desire without surrendering to it. It's the ability to feel pressure without collapsing under it. Self-control is choosing long-term positioning over short-term emotion. And that choice separates boys from men. When someone disrespects you and you explode, you feel strong. But you just revealed your trigger. When someone criticizes you and you rush to defend, you feel righteous. But you just exposed insecurity. When someone tempts you with comfort and you give in instantly, you feel relief. But you just weakened your discipline. Self-control is not suppression. It is regulation. It is strength under tension. The strongest man in the room is not the loudest. It is the one who does not need to react. The one who can sit in silence. The one who can delay gratification. The one who can walk away from ego battles. That is power. Because power is not about forcing outcomes. It is about not being forced by impulses. Most men are controlled by three things: emotion, comfort, and ego. Emotion makes them react. Comfort makes them procrastinate. Ego makes them escalate. Self-control neutralizes all three. And once those three stop controlling you, your life changes. You stop arguing to win. You stop chasing validation. You stop making decisions based on mood. You stop sabotaging progress because you didn't feel like it. Self-control builds authority because it builds predictability. And predictability builds trust. When people know you won't overreact, won't overpromise, won't overindulge, they take you seriously. Because you are stable. Stability is rare. And rare traits command respect. Self-control is not flashy. It is not dramatic. It is quiet. But it is absolute. And in the next part, we break down why most men never develop it. Most men don't lack strength. They lack restraint. They confuse expression with power. They think being honest means saying everything they feel. They think being confident means reacting instantly. They think being dominant means never backing down. But uncontrolled expression is not strength. It is exposure. The moment you cannot delay your response, you reveal dependency on emotion. And dependency is weakness. Self-control is difficult because it requires you to override impulse. And impulse feels natural. Anger feels justified. Desire feels harmless. Laziness feels earned. Ego feels protective. But natural does not mean beneficial. Most destruction in a man's life comes from one uncontrolled moment. One message sent too fast. One decision made in anger. One indulgence repeated too often. One reaction that damaged reputation. Power is not tested when things are calm. It is tested when emotion spikes. When your heart rate rises. When someone insults you. When you feel disrespected. When temptation is available. That is the battlefield. And most men lose that battle privately before they ever lose it publicly. They give in to distraction. They give in to comfort. They give in to ego. Then they wonder why their confidence feels unstable. Confidence without control is fragile. It depends on environment. But confidence built on self-control is steady. Because it is backed by evidence. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you strengthen identity. Every time you delay gratification, you increase authority. Every time you remain calm under pressure, you elevate positioning. Self-control creates separation. Separation from chaos. Separation from noise. Separation from emotional volatility. And that separation creates clarity. When you are not reacting emotionally, you can see strategically. You can decide long-term. You can move deliberately. Weak men chase release. Strong men build tolerance. Tolerance for boredom. Tolerance for discomfort. Tolerance for pursue. That tolerance is what allows them to grow. Because growth is uncomfortable. And if you cannot control your reaction to discomfort, you will always retreat. Most men want results without friction. But friction reveals character. Self-control is the ability to move forward while friction exists. It is choosing what serves you instead of what stimulates you. It is acting from principle instead of impulse. And in the next part, we break down how to build this kind of control intentionally instead of hoping it appears when you need it. Self-control is not something you suddenly discover under pressure. It is something you train in ordinary moments. Most men think they will be strong when it matters. They won't. Under pressure, you don't rise to your expectations. You fall to your training. If your daily habits are reactive, your crisis behavior will be reactive. If your daily standards are weak, your pressure response will be weak. Self-control is built through small decisions repeated consistently. It starts with delaying simple impulses. Not checking your phone instantly. Not responding immediately when irritated. Not eating every craving. Not speaking every thought. These seem small. They are not. Every delayed impulse strengthens authority over yourself. And authority over yourself is the foundation of authority over anything else. If you cannot control small urges, you will not control large ones. If you cannot resist distraction, you will not resist temptation. If you cannot pause before speaking, you will not pause before escalating. The muscle of restraint grows only through use. And restraint requires awareness. You must notice the impulse before you override it. That means slowing down. That means observing emotion without merging with it. When anger appears, you recognize it. You do not become it. When desire appears, you observe it. You do not chase it instantly. When ego is triggered, you feel it. You do not defend automatically. That pause creates space. And space creates power. Because inside that space, you choose. Choice is power. Impulse is weakness. Strong men widen the space between feeling and action. Weak men collapse it. That difference defines everything. You can build self-control deliberately. Create friction where you usually take comfort. Finish tasks even when bored. Stay silent when provoked. Keep promises when tired. Every time you override impulse, you reinforce identity. Identity shifts from reactive to controlled. And controlled men are stable. Stability changes how others perceive you. It changes how you perceive yourself. You stop doubting your consistency. You stop fearing your own emotional volatility. You begin to trust yourself. Self-trust is the byproduct of self-control. And self-trust is power that cannot be taken from you. In the final part, we close this with the real reason self-control elevates a man above the noise of everyone else. Here is the final truth. Self-control is not about looking calm. It is about being unshakable. Anyone can look composed when nothing challenges them. Real power appears when pressure increases and your behavior does not collapse. That is when people notice. That is when dynamics shift. Because the moment others realize they cannot move you emotionally, they lose leverage. Most men live in emotional exposure. Their mood changes their tone. Their frustration changes their decisions. Their desire changes their standards. They are predictable in the worst way. Easy to provoke. Easy to tempt. Easy to distract. And what is easy to move is easy to manipulate. Self-control removes manipulation. When you cannot be baited into arguments, you control conversations. When you cannot be rushed into decisions, you control timing. When you cannot be tempted into comfort, you control progress. Timing, conversation, progress, those are power variables. And all of them depend on internal control. The man who masters himself does not need to dominate others. He does not need to raise his voice. He does not need to prove anything. His restraint communicates more than reaction ever could. Because restraint signals confidence. It signals security. It signals that your identity is not fragile. And fragile men are loud. Stable men are measured. Measured men are respected. Self-control also builds long-term leverage. When you delay gratification, you accumulate advantage. When you stay consistent, you compound results. When you remain calm, you think clearly. Clear thinking produces better decisions. Better decisions produce better outcomes. And better outcomes reinforce identity. This is how power becomes structural instead of emotional. Emotional power spikes and fades. Structural power builds and stays. Self-control is structural power. It is not dependent on hype. It is not dependent on environment. It is not dependent on approval. It is internal governance. And governance creates authority. Authority creates influence. Influence creates impact. So if you want real power, stop focusing on how strong you appear. Focus on how stable you are. Because the man who controls himself controls his direction. And the man who controls his direction controls his future. Self-control is not the loudest form of power. It is the highest.